All right, welcome to New in Review. I am Chris Murray here with Brendan Grant from Neuway Media, and this is a podcast we're going to be doing where we take a look at older movies and take a new look on it, have like a new review or a talk about it. We're going to be talking about how it was shot, just things we picked up on while watching it again, because this was not my first time seeing it over the years, and just have like a refreshing take. We have nothing else to do while we're all in lockdown except for watch movies and create content, so why not do both in one? So what's up, Brendan? How you been?
Yo, what's going on? I couldn't agree more. I think it's gonna be cool to visit old nostalgic films and stuff, and like give a new impression on what we think, and if it still holds up. I have vague memories of seeing 28 Days Later when I was younger, but I rewatched it a couple days ago, and a lot of it I hadn't remembered. But it's cool always, especially I think for us, revisiting films after having been through film school and now working in film professionally. You have a completely different take on it, and
Mm.
yeah, so it's going to be cool.
Well, I don't think we actually announced officially. Well, you just did. What movie we're reviewing? So
Oh,
this
all right.
week is 28 Days Later. It seems fitting for what's going on with the coronavirus, the world pandemic, and this movie's about infectious diseases and like invisible threats, and it just seemed to fit. And it's free on Netflix, I believe. Is it on Netflix or was it Hulu?
No, I think it was Hulu, or it definitely wasn't Netflix. I forget what it
Okay,
was.
so Hulu. It was probably Hulu then. Um, so yeah, it's free on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, catch up on it. It will definitely benefit if you've seen this movie. I saw it when it like first came out. My friend Jason, it's like at the time was his favorite movie. I remember seeing it then, but I hardly remembered it. So it definitely benefits to catch up and rewatch it, since if you have Hulu, it's right there. And even if you haven't seen it, I still think it'll be like a fun podcast to stick around for. And you may want to see it after hearing what we have to say about it.
Yeah,
So
totally.
either way,
Should we do a part the first half no spoilers, and then the second half we can talk about the ending and stuff, or do you think it doesn't really matter?
I don't want to restrict our conversation. So yeah, that's the thing. There it will be spoilers in this. We're just going to be talking
Okay, cool.
freely. I don't want to dance around it too much. The movie's been out so long.
Yeah, true.
Um,
Yeah, I think it came out in 2002. I think it said on Wikipedia.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
been, yeah, it's been
and
a
it
long
looks
ass
like
time.
it. It looks like it.
Well, yeah. So
It looks even older.
I'm really excited to talk about the cinematography for this. I mean, that's the biggest thing I picked up on. I'm sure you're excited too.
Yeah. So this format we have right now is pretty loose. We'll tighten it up as we go. This is our first episode here, and we're kind of figuring out how the format's going to be and how organized this thing's going to be. So
Yeah, I think I prefer the free form discussion, almost as if when you just come out of a movie theater and you're sharing your impressions of it. I don't know. To me, that's a lot more fun to listen to than a lot of these super polished podcasts where, they know everything about the movie, and they,
yeah, totally.
personally anyways.
So thoughts? What were your thoughts on seeing this movie again?
Um, Well, it was awesome. It was really funny, sitting down with my roommates and deciding to watch it, flipping through Netflix and Hulu and all this streaming services. I think this
Hmm.
was the first or second day that we were self quarantining ourselves, and we were like, you know what, let's watch a movie related to viruses or zombies or infection or whatever. And there were a few on our list, and then we stumbled on 28 Days Later, and it just seemed like the perfect movie to watch. So yeah, it
I
was
find
funny to
that funny because I like came up with the idea and didn't tell you yet.
No, yeah,
I
exactly.
watched the movie. I took 2 pages of notes while watching it and was like, I don't know what I'm taking these notes for, but I feel like maybe we could have like a video where I just talk about the movie in a review. And then I was like, oh, we should bring it into a podcast. And I kind of just like assigned you the homework.
I was
And
like, great,
because
I've
I
already
already
seen it.
did my end and was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And you were like, oh, I actually just watched that. So I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah,
Lined
seriously
up.
perfect. Yeah, yeah. It's fate. But no, yeah, first impressions of it were it was a great movie. I think it's definitely a film buffs kind of a movie, like a film lovers movie.
Yeah, it's super indie.
Yeah, it was Well, it's a British film, so that
Hmm.
when you look up the budget, I think they said the budget was like £5 million, but I think that's like
Yeah.
4 million US. So really low budget movie.
Hmm.
Um, and it definitely comes across that way, but definitely like not in a bad way at all. It's like an artsy zombie apocalypse.
It dances. The cinematography dances. Like there's shots that look so video-y, that just look like not less cinematic, but just you
Yeah,
could just
exactly.
feel the technology they're using just with how it looks and how it's handling the image. And then there's other shots that are just so beautifully crafted that you're just like, how the hell did they shoot this with like mini DV?
Yeah,
Some of those shots are like are excellent in that film.
I think that was like my biggest takeaway with the cinematography is it. I mean, it was shot on mini DV, and we can talk about that.
Hmm.
But like how even with like a super like low end, like basically consumer level camera, the way that they placed the camera and composed the images is like what made it still feel like super cinematic and what
I
gave
th-
it that really unique look that like stood out to me so much.
I could be wrong, but didn't they use like Sony VXs or was it those Canons?
Yeah, the Canon, the
There's this like weird
XL1.
white Canon, like
Yeah,
almost like
yeah,
had
yeah,
like an L shape look to it. It's
yeah. It's
like
got like this white
crazy.
curved. Yeah, yeah. So it's the Canon XL1. You
Hmm.
can buy them on eBay now for like $200, used on Adorama for $400.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So smaller than Super 35 sensor.
I apologize if you could hear that. There's like construction.
I can barely hear it. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we both have a lot of construction. I don't understand how
Living
you
in
still
Hollywood, it's like it's just constant noise all the time.
like we're supposed to be on lockdown and there's still tons of construction happening. I don't get it.
I
Like I
don't
woke up
know.
today to like a jackhammer outside.
I mean, that's what I have going on outside.
Yeah.
Yesterday,
So
like the neighbor is having their entire kitchen like got it and redone. So I have no idea. I have no
yeah.
idea. Um.
Yeah, so shot on mini DV. The cinematographer's name is Dodd Mantle.
Hmm.
So a little I like Googled. I was like looking up the camera and like all of its features and stuff to try to understand it more. It has a black and white viewfinder, and so they
Yeah.
actually used like a separate 9-inch color monitor to help frame up the shots and set focus and stuff.
Hmm.
They were using like Canon lenses, um, and they like set up a
Like still lenses,
well,
like photography lenses.
yeah. Let me go back here on. There's like a really great American cinematographer write up, like article on this, and they were talking about the lenses.
Oh, awesome. We'll link that.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
So
link that in the description.
they had
Because
a
as far as like output, I figured we would output it on podcast platforms, so we'll get it up on like SoundCloud and iTunes,
right, yeah,
and then we would do like a YouTube video post that's just audio,
yeah, totally,
But if just to have that avenue.
yeah. So they had the Canon EC 6 to 40 millimeter and Canon EJ 50 to 150 millimeter,
Hmm.
um, and they got those on the camera body with optics adapters. So I'm not sure what mount those, if those are like probably not. I don't even think EF mount existed back then. Maybe it did technically for the stills cameras. Um,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've been around.
yeah, so I'm not familiar with the Canon EC or Canon EJ lenses,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, me
yeah,
neither.
they're not native to the XL1, so they adapted them. I guess it says on here they're 35 millimeter lenses,
Oh,
so they were able
nice.
to use like focus rings. So they had a traditional like focus wheel system for the first AC. Yeah, and it's not even a color viewfinder, so they had to use external 9-inch monitors in order to frame everything up, which I found really fascinating. And they had like matte boxes and stuff on the front of these lenses and everything. So they built it up like a cinema camera, but it was this sort of like low budget indie approach, which
Man,
I thought,
that was like so trendy. They and then following like Active Valor with the 5D revolution, just like rigging that up and using like a cheaper tool
oh
to
yeah, yeah,
to be cinematic,
yeah,
because I think like Philip Bloom brought 5Ds on for like the Red Wings. Was
oh
it
yeah,
Red Wings?
I think
Lucasfilm.
yeah, the Tuskegee Airmen. I think it was
Yeah,
something
that George
like
Lucas
that.
film, and then
Which like
like yeah,
nobody knows about. I feel like it's so under the radar, that movie. Great movie
I
though.
think Redman is in it
Right.
from from How High, not How
Oh,
High. Yeah, How High.
okay.
Method Man and Redman.
Oh,
He's like a crew chief. Um,
nice.
so this film opens with rioting in the streets. Like that's how the film. That's like the first thing that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, very cool opening.
So now, if we look at pandemics as pandemics go, I'm trying to see how this would relate to how our society would act.
Oh yeah,
Eventually, when people aren't like generating income, and then we're on this lockdown state, like I don't know, if I see that's could be a next step that this could go in, in real life.
yeah. I mean, there were rumors going around that I told you about the other day, um, and they were false rumors that President Trump was going to like enact the Stafford Act, which was going to basically like shut down
Hmm.
everything and like force people to stay at home and like deploy the National Guard and stuff and not even have like grocery stores and stuff open. And
Yeah,
he
the
wasn't going to
National
get
Guard
any.
is deployed, but they're like deployed as like relief act.
Well, right, exactly. But so apparently, it's not even in his ability to like completely quarantine the entire country.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like I was thinking, like if something like that ever happened, where you like literally don't allow people to get the resources they need, like if people are home and they don't have food, like they're starving, yeah, there's going to be riots. And I think we're a lot closer to that than a lot of people think. So it's kind of
Even
it makes the movie way more terrifying to watch when you're in a state like this in society, for sure.
totally, because it's like it could be a precursor, right?
Yeah, like it really feels a lot closer to home. And I think that was one of my takeaways while watching it. Is like it felt a lot scarier than I think it would have felt in any other context.
And people just seem to act out of nature when control is enacted,
Yeah.
even if it's like for their own good. People are told to stay inside, and people just don't like being told to stay inside, so they just go out anyway. It seems like, and then if people aren't earning money because everything's shut down, that like,
Yeah.
but bills they still exist, eventually people will just like, I don't know, and that's where I could see like things getting ugly.
Yeah.
Is once again, once the money is involved, everyone's losing so much money in the stock market. It's just crazy.
And I
So
forget, could you remind me the opening sequence?
mhm.
It was like montage-esque, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was like
yeah,
it was like the you were seeing like the news stations almost like.
yeah. You're kind of like getting caught up to speed, like fast, like
Yeah.
over time, caught up fast, so you could just catch up to like what's happening currently. Right, 28 days later
Yeah.
is like
And then
that's
it
how
was
it starts.
the chimpanzee, right? Was like watching the screens.
Yeah, it's an animal contagion, right? So
That was really cool. How it like pulled back through the TV screens
it's
to
called
see.
rage, right?
Yeah.
Rage is the virus,
Yeah.
which is they would never use that. They would instead
Yeah, I
use
know, right?
a Mexican beer and blame it on them. Blame it on them. I wonder how Corona stock's doing. You know,
Yeah. It's either going
because
way up because people are buying it like as
yeah,
a rumor.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like spite drinking it,
Yeah. That's really funny.
or it's tanking just because of the word. It's like there's this barber I passed. It's ironically, it's like on Obama Avenue or Obama Street or something
Mm.
here in Hollywood. I think it's here in Hollywood. Might be in Sherman Oaks. I think it's here in Hollywood though. And then on that street, there's like like the a business with the name ISIS, and I was just like, man, like
Whoa.
I wonder if that hurts business because it's like that's like a
Yeah,
word
what?
and name that's been around, but now that it's associated with like a terrorist hate group, I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird. Super weird.
Anyway, back to rage. So it's an infection in the blood, I guess, right?
Yes. Yes.
What I find interesting is you instantly turn. There's not like a long delay at
Yeah,
all
like
where
10
you
to
find
15
in most.
seconds.
Yeah, it's quick.
Yeah.
It's very quick. It's not even like 15 minutes. It's instant.
Yeah. Which is like a little bit sort of like unrealistic, but I think it totally works for the movie the way they set the stage and sort of explain it. And
It makes it way more terrifying. Like you don't even
yeah,
have time to react, which
yeah,
which causes like brutal murders, you know,
yeah,
for
yeah, exactly.
like when she just takes her partner out, like just like that, without a hesitation.
Yeah, so yeah, let's talk about that scene for a bit. Like you get introduced to these two characters.
Hmm.
Um, what are their names? Let me look this up. Naomi and I forget the other guy's name because he's only in the movie. Frank.
Yeah, I should have wrote the names down
Oh wait,
because
no,
I'm
not
terrible at
not
names.
Frank. Frank is the father. Anyways, Naomi is the woman who kills the
Hmm.
guy, and you
Hmm.
get introduced to like
Oh,
Naomi and
but
this other guy who saved Jim in the beginning from.
wait, isn't it Selena?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mark and Selena.
Naomi is the name of the actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So our main character is Jim,
Hmm.
and then there's Mark and Selena.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, and then so basically Selena just like kills Mark in like 5 seconds because she sees that he has like he's like bit or something after a zombie
Which,
attack, and like she doesn't even wait for him to turn. She just sees that he's bleeding and just fucking kills him.
yeah, like this movie doesn't even give you that grieving period where like you see in all these shows and movies where it's like someone turned and then it's like a sad, slow, like emotional scene, and then there's
Right.
like a lot of build up, and then it's like okay, they keep getting closer and closer, and then they're like, just, you know how it always is. They never decide to commit to attacking, and they're like not, you know, not
Yeah.
really believing it until it's like the last second, but it's like a long, drawn out tension scene. And in this, it's like he's bit, and she just like bashes his fucking, just like starts cut. I thought she was gonna cut his arm off, but I guess she just like slashes him to death.
Yeah. And it was really nice how they did that like subtly off frame, you know?
Hmm.
Like you didn't quite see it, and then, they cut to like Jim's reaction right away, which was really
I,
nice.
I like when that happens. Sometimes it's just better. Leave it up to our imagination of how graphic it could be, you know?
Yeah, and it was like more what was important in that scene was just the abruptness of it all,
Hmm.
and so that totally gets across, and just hearing it in the sound design, just hearing it happen and not even necessarily seeing it was really cool. And then I think all in all, like it becomes a foreshadow for what happens with Hannah's dad at
Hmm.
sort of at the end when he gets infected, and it's a lot different now because it's like we care about him. He's like one of our favorite characters, and he gets it, but like we are given more time because now Selena's like telling Jim to kill him, and Jim doesn't do it right away, so we
Hmm.
do get that sort of moment there at the end where it's more like a slow drawn out, and then at
I
the end Jim doesn't even have to kill him, the soldiers do.
I
But that
couldn't
was
help
great.
but like draw parallels to The Last of Us while watching this.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I wonder how much inspiration The Last of Us took from this film.
I'd bet quite a lot, actually. I mean, I think this was definitely, if we're talking about like cultural relevance, I think it was definitely um, a like humongously
Selena almost
important
felt
film.
like a firefly
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
from The Last of Us.
Yeah, watching this movie definitely made me want to replay The Last of Us, and I've already played it like 3 times. So,
I know this. Is it May? Is it April or May
oh, I hope
when
it's not
two comes
delayed
out?
now. I think it was supposed to be April. It might be delayed, honestly, which would
We
be a
have
bummer.
we live in a digital release society. They should just still release it digitally.
Hopefully they do. That would be a great way to spend my time
I
during this
mean, movie
lockdown.
theaters. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, true.
I actually have a write up I'm doing on that. So I'm doing a blog post on like about on demand movies like being here to stay,
Oh,
and
sick.
how
Yeah.
I think it's going to change like the release of theatrical movies,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
because I guess right now they're releasing like you could get with the Invisible Man and a few other
Hmm.
movies, you could like pay premium dollars, $20, which is a little steep. But you
Yeah,
could pay and like see movies in theaters like right now at home if you pay $20.
I've been seeing a lot of like controversy about that. Like some people don't mind. I think I tend to like be on that side of the spectrum, but a lot of other people think that that price is way too steep. But like, I don't know. When I think about it, like, yeah, if for one person to watch it, it might be steep.
Mhm.
But like if
Oh,
two
yeah, if you
people
get, like,
or a
4 people to
family,
throw in, you know?
it's
It's
like way cheaper than a
people
movie
don't
theater.
bat an eye when they spend, like, $70 to watch a boxing match on pay-per-view at home,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how much they are, but I know they're pretty steep, and to watch these fights, like, you have to pay money.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think as long as there's an option, you know, if you could still go to a theater, but you could also pay a premium dollar to stay at home, like, I
Right.
don't know. I
No,
think the option
exactly.
should have always been there. I've been saying it for years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, well, that's not a movie I want to go out for the theater experience for. I'd rather just sit at home and watch it on the couch. I'll still pay the theater price, you know, to see
Mm-hmm.
it early. But anyway,
Yeah, let's get back to 28 Days Later. I want to talk more about the mini DV cameras. I mean, just because,
yeah,
I mean, for us, obviously, we're going to be like leaning towards the cinematography end of the conversation just because that's our favorite thing.
I came up through mini DV.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
I
something very similar in terms of the chip itself in the XL1.
yeah, I had Sony Handycams,
Yeah,
and then I had like the Sony VX 2100.
and I
Uh,
actually technically came up on mini DV as well, but like more just like the point and shoot handheld things, not really
Even our
the big
freshman
format
year
ones.
in
But
college
we were still shooting on.
at
Yeah,
Temple University, that yeah, mini DV was what we had to use. We even, I mean, Connor had a DSLR at the time, right? He had
yeah. Some of us had like T3Is and things like that. But yeah, like in terms of what we were allowed to use through class, like the only thing we could use as freshmen was mini DV
and
cameras.
we
I
had the
remember
like
our
the
first
tape
project.
recorders. Remember at our desks, like
Yeah, yeah.
the little mini
Yeah,
DV
the tape deck,
recorders,
the
the
tape
tape
deck, yeah.
decks,
Um,
which was
yeah,
cool. It just looked cool.
I remember our first project freshman year, like first semester was like the in-camera edit, you know, where you had to film a sequence like shot for shot throughout the whole sequence, and then
Yeah.
it had to
Yep.
like
Yep.
already
Yep.
be edited in camera. That was
Yeah.
that
On
was with
tape.
on tape, yeah.
We also went to film. We should have just started those projects like on film. We should have skipped tape altogether. I have no idea why we even bothered, but
Yeah, I think
so
back
yeah,
then we
talk.
were just in that weird time period where we were still making the transition, and like film schools, I think Temple was like a little behind on that in terms of transitioning to digital. And although like from a resource perspective, out of all of the universities, at least in Pennsylvania, they had a decent amount of resources and stuff, but for freshmen anyways, we didn't have access to any nice cameras. I remember like it was
Yeah,
even hard
it's
to get like a 5D from at Temple initially, but like once you had to
I
take all the.
remember I tried to check out a 5D.
Yeah.
I owned one at the time. You know, I just wanted another one to rent, and they said like it was only for grad students.
Yeah,
And I
you had
was
to
like,
have
"What are you
taken certain
talking about?
classes.
Like I could check out a red. What do you mean I have
Yeah.
to like I the 5Ds for grad students, but the red is for undergrad? That didn't make any sense." And
Hmm.
that's it seemed like the students kind of took control of that rental equipment office
Yeah,
and
they
kind of
totally
like got
did.
them a bunch of better stuff, and so that's cool.
Yeah.
Caught them up to
Anyway,
speed.
I really quickly wanted to read a paragraph here from American Cinematographer talking about exposure and stuff because
Cool.
obviously, like mini DV doesn't do great with exposure. So, Dodmantle shot as wide open as possible with ND filters to minimize the DV's seemingly infinite depth of field, which is something we've all experienced. Like, no matter how close or far you are from the camera, it's like in focus. Um, so he underexposed by one or two stops to get more information on tape, which is another interesting thing. We always talk about like exposing for the toe versus exposing for the shoulder. When it comes
Hmm.
to digital, you basically blow out highlights so quickly on digital. So that's like really interesting. That's exactly like what we learned in film school. Um, the XL1 also has an exposure value of about 320 ASA without altering the shutter speed. So that's like really low, but technically like we're looking at film, and like most films are around like what is it like 200 for daylight or something like that.
Yeah,
Or
like it's
yeah,
speaking of shutter speed, man. They really played with it in this film.
yeah, they did.
The zombies had their own, or not zombies. I'm sorry, the infected
Hmm.
had their own shutter speed.
I think you could call them zombies. I think technically they're called zombies in
Ah,
like on the Wikipedia anyways.
oh really?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
thought they were avoiding the term
They're called
zombies.
like fast zombies.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so anyway, so For the daylight exterior shots that featured prominent skies, um, presented difficulties for the DV. So they used grad filters,
Hmm.
which are basically just ND filters, which have a lot of ND at the top and no ND at the bottom,
Yeah.
so you can expose. Um, so Dodmantle says, I use them quite a lot because the sky burns out so quickly. If there's nothing there, then there's nothing you can work on digitally. There will be basically like a hole on the cinema screen when you go back to the print. So
Hmm.
inevitably, the sky had to be sacrificed in certain shots, but Dodmantle also shot sky replacement plates so they could actually in post
Yeah.
put the sky back in, which I found really fascinating, especially for an indie low budget film that they would spend that much time in post to replace the sky. Basically, what he said he did was he would just stop down 2 or 3 stops and use some filters to enhance the cloud formations. So probably like a polarizer or whatever. And that's how he got the skies back in some of those shots. And a lot of this was just shot static on tripods. So I guess he was able to do that pretty easily.
Yeah. And it's, you could tell, like, it, even though it looks like it's shot on tape, it's still very cinematic. Like
Yeah.
you could feel the art of the cinematographer and the director,
Yeah.
and
It,
like
it
the
just
vision
goes
they
to
had.
show.
It just separates it. Like there's just, I mentioned
Yeah.
it earlier, there's just so many shots in there that just separate it from like, that's still like, even like it's showing like, look, you could use any tool to create a compelling story. You don't need the latest and greatest, but you
Exactly.
still need that craft, you know,
Exactly.
because it would ultimately look a little rough. I mean, this message still came across, but because the way it handles the image, like it's just not great, you know.
Well, and that's something that I think like works well for this movie. Is how degraded the image is and how rough it is. It makes it feel more post-apocalyptic. And
Yeah,
Dodmantle talked about that. He was like,
it made the film feel super dated too, which was kind of cool.
"Well,
That's
yeah,
like an unintentional aesthetic, you know, or maybe it was, but it it came across like an old 80s like B horror quality level of how it looked, you know.
yeah, um, yeah," but it totally worked. And Dodmantle basically explained how, like, he basically knew that he was going to have to be sacrificing a lot of the information and obviously like overexposure and things like that. But it winds up working well for the film at the end, and they just
Mhm.
they basically had this uh, like for when they're shooting all the stuff in the beginning when you're seeing London completely empty and vacant. He
Yeah.
said they used like up to 8 cameras at once in order to shoot some of those sequences because they only had so much time where they could shut the streets down. And
Mm,
so they would have like literally pedestrians yelling at them just outside of frame while they were trying to shoot all these shots.
that's
And they
crazy.
just didn't have the budget to do that on 35 millimeter. They had to have like smaller, more lightweight packages and cheaper packages.
Mhm.
So it was like a practical decision he made, but he also like stuck to his guns because it worked well for the look of the film. Even though he said like there were moments where he was like, "Yeah, I wish we could have shot that on film," but I think ultimately it works really well. And yeah, it just goes
Yeah.
to show you don't need crazy gear if you've got the artistry.
Yeah, and when I was speaking earlier about how it resembled the aesthetic of like an 80s B horror film, I was specifically talking about the limitations of the technology of shooting on tape, just the
Yeah,
way the tape looked, not the actual art style of how it was shot. How it was shot
right.
is super cinematic and resembles even like the artistic composition of like you'd find in like a Coppola film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like rewatching like old Bram Stoker's Dracula by Coppola. Like there's just these super like close up shots. Or THX did it with George Lucas too. I mean, a lot of films do it, but where it's just like you have that artistic super close up. They use close ups so heavily in this to create the depth. You know, foreground. You see a
Right.
lot of foreground um, objects, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things close to the lens, just to create the depth that with the small sensor size that they have the limitations with as well. Shooting on mini DV.
Yeah, I think that's that particular technique I think is something that a lot of modern cinematographers, indie folk, like we're so used to shooting on like full frame sensors nowadays and
Hmm.
35 that it's so easy to get depth and shallow depth of field that we don't really do that technique of like foreground, midground, background. It's always just
Yeah.
midground, background. And I
Yeah.
think that that added a lot to it. And also, one of the things that stuck out to me, some of my favorite shots were a lot of the canted angles that were used throughout the film. There were a lot of them.
Yeah, they were.
I remember there was this one specifically in the beginning of the movie where Jim is still getting out of the hospital and he's checking like all of the payphones, and there's
Mhm.
this row of payphones and he's like standing there, and it's sort of like a medium wide shot. You see the row of payphones and him standing by one, and it's just this like super canted shot, and it just works so well. And they say like you'd use a canted shot to make it feel like something is off balance, like something is weird. Obviously, as a viewer, you already feel that because the hospital is freaking empty. It's
Yeah.
To me, the shot isn't even about that. It's just like the aesthetics of good composition of like finding those unique angles, and they're everywhere throughout this film. Not just candid angles, but just unique angles in general. Finding really cool perspectives.
Even just someone like walking injured down a hallway, like leaning on the wall as support because of the
Yeah,
injury and canting it a little bit could just create the weight of that wall,
yeah.
or the weight of like their off balance, just even just creating that emotion and mood. Still not crazy enough of candid angles in comparison to John Adams. Remember John Adams candid
Oh
angles?
yeah. Well,
Like that
so
HBO miniseries?
that's like the exact opposite in terms
Yeah.
of how much I enjoyed it. Because
Yeah.
I would every time there was a canted angle, I would have to comment and be like, "This is way too bad." Like
It was
they
almost
were
like
way too
it was
canted.
like shot like Dragon Ball Z, It
It was
would
like
just be like 90-degree shots like up against each other.
just
I'm
crazy
exaggerating,
canted,
but
and if it didn't work for me for that, I feel so mean and harsh saying this, because I loved how it was done
I
in
mean,
28 Days Later.
the film still looks great, or the miniseries still looks great. Just the composition choices sometimes with those canon angles.
It just didn't feel justified to me. Like they're
Yeah.
sitting in a courtroom arguing, sure, but it maybe if it was just a little bit less canted, because the angle is like so intense on some of those shots.
So so speaking of shots, so we see the montage of the rage kind of affecting the nation, and you have cut to 28 days later, right? And the first shot is of him, like his eye, like a close up of his eye.
Oh yeah, that was a
Cut
cool
to
shot.
a wide shot of his penis, him just like butt
Oh
naked.
yeah, I forgot he was naked in
So we
that.
go like super close on his eye. Cut to wide shot, completely naked, male nudity, progressiveness right there in the in the intro.
Yeah, that's how you
There's
know
your
it's an
nudity
art
for the
film.
film.
Yep.
It's not an indie film unless you squeeze in a good penis. What do you think their choice was to open that way? Like why that juxtaposition?
Yeah, I don't know if I even like processed it in my mind as like purposefully juxtaposing. Um,
Hmm.
but it definitely well, it was definitely like abrupt and like oh wow, he's naked. But I think that's the point, right? Is they're trying to make a point like the point that he's
Vulnerable,
naked.
right? Vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah, and it just enhances the vulnerability, and it enhances the fact that he's alone and there's no one here.
I completely forgot that it's Scarecrow from Batman Begins.
Oh really? Yeah, no, he's been in so much. He's an awesome actor.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders, right?
Cillian Murphy. Cool name.
Killian?
Or Killian,
Killian?
yeah.
I think it's Killian.
Yeah,
Irish.
that sounds more right.
But it's yeah, Scarecrow. So I I when I saw it, it was before Batman Begins. So I don't even really I didn't
Oh,
know the actor at
cool.
all.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was like the
you
beginning
see
of his
him over the
career.
years, and I'm not even connecting him to 28 Days Later because it's been so long.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
rewatch it, and I'm just like, oh, there's Scarecrow's penis, front and center. No,
He's
it
prominent in the Peaky Blinders.
it,
He's in Dunkirk.
it opens just like The Walking Dead,
Oh, yeah. So,
where
like,
The
talk
Walking
about
Dead opens just like
right,
28 Days Later.
exactly. Like, talk about influencing the culture, like of zombie films and stuff. Yeah, total ripoff.
Surprisingly too close, in my opinion. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
I mean, I get it. Like, that's how it would go, right? That
yeah,
someone's going to wake up in a hospital. I just find it interesting that like 28 Days Later was released and was such a prominent film. It kind of regenerated like the zombie franchise. I feel like
yeah. No,
that
I think
was
it
kind
did.
of like a not a dying, but a repetitive horror, and that this gave it a fresh new take. And then just seems interesting that a show as big as The Walking Dead. Maybe
When
it
did
didn't know it was going to be as big as the time, but
yeah?
just such a close resemblance of the intro.
When did Resident Evil come out?
94
Like late '90s?
maybe.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Resident Evil release date. You don't wake up in a hospital in that game though.
Well, no, no, no.
96, 96.
I was just thinking like those are the two most prominent like zombie horror films
Yeah,
that I grew
Resident
up.
Evil like created that whole
Yeah,
survival horror genre on the video game platform. It was
yeah.
great. Resident Evil's amazing. Resident Evil 2, 98, 399. But that was kind of a little unique. You were kind of on the police side of things,
Hmm.
investigating. So that was cool. That was cool.
Oh, okay.
But
Quick correction here. I think I said earlier the budget of the film was £4 million. I think on
no, you said
Wikipedia
5. You said
or
5.
five. Yeah, on Wikipedia
You
it says
compared it to about 4 million US
yeah,
dollars.
yeah. On Wikipedia it says £8 million. So I'm
Oh,
not sure what
really?
the right number is there. On
I
American
read
Cinema
5,
Photographer was where it said
but
five.
maybe it's 8.
Yeah, I don't know. Just wanted to mention that.
Or maybe there was added expenses once the film was made,
Yeah, exactly.
like advertising,
Yeah, that was right.
distribution,
Yeah, yeah.
etc.,
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
or like paying for
Oh,
music.
so another thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the cinematography that I read on American Cinematographer is they actually did a lot of their nighttime scenes as day for nights. So they would
Mhm.
actually drop the exposure by like 7 to 8 stops and then
Mm.
blast HMIs on the scene in order to
Mhm.
make it feel like nighttime. So that way the sensor could handle the low light, which I found really, really
Yeah, they
fascinating.
would shoot at like 4 a.m., right?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the times. I just read that they used big HMIs
It
and then
was cool seeing London empty.
yeah, totally.
Like actually London empty, not like a CG backdrop plate, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And if a
That's
low budget
cool.
indie film can do it, then that means they can do it in real life and they should stop shooting on green screen.
Yeah.
Yo,
Yeah,
side note.
that it was so cool, and I was, like, right there. It was just neat getting to see, like,
Oh
somewhere
yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah, yeah,
and
'cause
how
you've been there.
busy it is and just see it, like, completely empty and just, like, a low budget indie film was able to do that with, like, the help of the police, and it's still cool. But what
Yeah.
were you gonna say?
How do you feel about this new LED wall technology that they're using like to replace green screens? Have you heard about that for The
Mm.
Mandalorian?
Well, I do know the LED wall technology just because 'cause I've done so many commercials for it already, like, through Market Scale.
Well, the technology that they use to like track the camera and project the CG environments in real time. They
Oh,
use
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Mandalorian.
yeah.
How crazy is that? Because then you basically get the simulated like natural real light from the environment projected on your soundstage, and all the backgrounds are like actually in camera, so you don't have to do any rotoscoping in post or green screen
It's
keying or anything. It's
it's
crazy.
insane. This
Like,
is the simulation. It's happening. We may not be one, but we're creating one, you know?
yeah.
Even with like the LiDAR. Like we just did that one project which we're on NDA for, so we can't really talk about it, but
Well,
they use like
yeah,
VR and LiDAR, to create and it's a film experience.
yeah. So they
And they're
made these.
capturing like a room and space and it just generates it in real time into like computer graph. It's just insane.
Yeah, it was made to look like it was basically like photorealistic CGI of a real space that exists in real life that they used lidar in order to map out and sculpt in a computer.
And manipulate, yeah.
Yeah, like crazy. So cool though. That lidar technology is amazing.
Yeah, it
Especially like
is.
when you see in real time like what the lidar sees and like all the little projection points it's shooting out and returning and how it's like building a world and it can like follow people and use the AI to like figure out what's a person and what's a stop sign and what's a car. Like it's all crazy.
I did one commercial in Vegas, like talking about how they used it to capture for Gran Turismo. They used it to capture
Oh,
like environments, so there were photorealistic environments as well as capturing the vehicles driving, so that they can mirror the suspension bouncing driving on the road to have it feel more real when you're operating the car in the game.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, yeah. I think I remember reading like an article about that.
It's
That's
like,
so cool.
yeah, Leica, using Leica technology, LiDAR.
So
Um, but we should get back to The Walking Dead,
sick.
basically. No, 28 days later. Ghost Town. Opens up to a ghost town he walks out to. It was like Jared Leto coming out of his meditation retreat. Did you hear about that?
No.
So Jared Leto was on a no contact meditation retreat, completely separated from technology and the outside like society,
Mm.
like silent meditation. And he came back like a couple days, probably a week ago by now, but a couple days ago,
Huh.
like to the coronavirus. He had no idea what was going on. He just like
Oh,
he came back into
whoa.
society like what's happening?
Holy cow. That must have been trippy.
I know. And then I just read an article about like this group that floated the Colorado River. It was like a 25-day float
Whoa.
down the river, and like they had no contact with the outside world, and they were like the last. They're being deemed the last people on the planet to know about coronavirus.
That's
And this is
insane.
like I think like 2 or 3 days ago. They just were like, "Hey, what's going on?" It's
That's
just
crazy.
insane. Toilet paper appeared to be non-existent as well. I didn't see any toilet paper rolling around on the streets. They cleared that out before the riots, clearly, in this film. I love how they played with color. Like, he enters that church, and they have this,
Oh, yeah.
like, sand-colored light mixed with, like, sand. It's like sand amber, and then there's, like, that green, like, coming out, like, just not
Yeah.
really motivated the color, but it just looked really cool, and it just made like the mini DV just have like a more cinematic appeal to it,
Mhm.
getting to get creative with color in the way they lit because they did play with it.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that. I forgot about that actually. But yeah, that church scene was awesome.
Yeah, with the
That's such a
graphic
great
image of all the bodies piled up,
Yeah.
like
Oh, that was
clinging
like
for their faith as they died, like so it's so dark.
one of those awesome examples of the use of composition, who is like looking on them from above. That was really, really good.
Hmm. That's where we meet the zombies, right, for the first time. The
Um,
very Last of Us like zombies, super fast, aggressive, where
yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
they're reminiscent to the Crimson zombies in Resident Evil. There's these
Huh.
zombies in that game that can open doors and like run.
I think
But
that
they
type
can
of
run. That's what
zombie
the
is
whole thing is, the zombie that can run.
like if we ever get zombies in real life, I think those are the kinds of zombies they're going to be, you know? Just like people who are sick, who like just want to eat humans. And they
Yeah.
can still think like a human and open a door like a human, obviously, because it's just a sick human, which
Yeah.
I think makes it like way more scary and more realistic.
I mean, we already had that bath salt incident like, a few years ago, right? Where, like, people were hopped up on that drug bath salts and were trying
Right.
to eat people.
Yeah.
It's it's insane. You mix that with, like, basically, you just need to add that to the mix we're in now, this pandemic, and you get this movie.
Yeah, I think that's why it was like so great to watch like at this moment in time, or just
Mhm.
because, yeah, it feels so relevant. It makes it way scarier.
And then there's this, like, the flames. Was it the zombie they, like, blow up? It was like that Rage Against the Machine close up of the flames like burning, or is it who is burning it? I'm trying to remember.
I forget. It's been a
But there's
while.
this like really graphic image of just like a super close up of a face just like burning alive,
Oh yeah, there was like a lot of weirdly.
and it reminded me of that Rage Against the Machine album, of that like very iconic image of that like person burning in
Oh,
the street.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're
What was
talking
that
about.
from?
Yeah, there were like a lot of those moments in this movie where it's like sort of like intense violence and like graphic content sort of out of nowhere. Like like when he kills the little kid zombie in that house,
Yeah, yeah,
and he just like beats him with a bat for like a minute and then walks out like nothing happened. That was a really cool moment in the film actually. Like from a character perspective, you know?
totally.
And
And
then
like
he
that affects him forever. That changed the character right there.
Yeah.
It evolved him to the next step of this world like that fast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. because like in the beginning he's like so helpless and he needs his like the other like Selena and everything to like protect him basically. And I think that moment was like him proving to himself that like he can protect himself. But
Hmm.
it was pretty effed up that like it was just like him killing a kid, like someone who was so much smaller and weaker that like couldn't dominate him physically regardless, but and like he wasn't really in any danger. He like sought out the murder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was pretty crazy. And then it kind of comes full circle at the end when the the military guy like asks him, who have you killed, and the only person he's killed is like a little boy. And then the
Hmm.
military guy is like, but you had to for survival. And we all know as the audience like he really didn't have to for survival.
Yeah.
Kind of
The He was just a bicycle carrier, right? Wasn't that
yeah.
his
Yeah.
occupation? And then what? Did he get hit by a car,
Yeah, something like that, which I thought was really cool.
which hospitalized him? And then he wakes up into this world. So who were Mark and Selena? Just like hunter gatherer survivors, like
Yeah, I forget. I don't think they knew each other before. I think they met like after the apocalypse, you know?
yeah,
And so I don't
like
think
on
they
the
were very
road.
close. Yeah. And they said what they used to do, but I forget what it was. I'm pretty sure they explained in the scene what they used to do. But it was cool. It just like enhanced the fact that he must have been unconscious for a while because they already seemed like seasoned veterans of all this, you know?
Mhm.
And they were, yeah, especially Celine was just like already like super. Oh, okay. So that's something I wanted to talk about. Like she's like super tough in the beginning and
Yeah,
like sort of an asshole. Like you can't get attached to anyone and like I'm just gonna kill my
yeah.
companion or
She's
whatever.
hardened.
Yeah, and then by the end, like she's falling for Jim like romantically, which
Yeah,
like
I was just
just
gonna
doesn't
say,
buy it.
didn't the Jim Selena love thing kind of feel a little like scripted, like
Yeah,
forced?
it felt super
It didn't
forced.
feel
I just didn't
natural for
buy
the
it.
characters to go that route.
Not at all. I would have preferred if like they just left that out of the film entirely,
I
or
agree.
if like
I'm glad you said that. That was literally my next
oh
comment.
cool, yeah yeah
Is on the Jim Selena relationship because the Mark relationship. I thought they entered in with like Mark and Selena were like survivalists as a team together. And
yeah
then she took him out without a blink. Necessary, yes, but without a blink of attachment. Like I was just like, oh, okay, there must not have been. They must have just been two individuals surviving. So it even showed her to be like even more independent. Like she doesn't even have the attachment.
yeah yeah.
And for
It
her
was
to just like
cooler.
grow attached to Jim, the bicycle carrier, I don't know. It's not like
No, it
he
was
was like this
literally
ultra survivalist that could help her. He was like a liability almost.
yeah. It seemed like literally the only reason was proximity. you know, like they were the only two
Yeah,
together and they were the same age, so she was like, well,
I could buy into
why
that. It
not?
just didn't fall in line with who her personality trait
Yeah,
was, unless that was just like a shield she put up until she felt comfortable.
yeah. I think that was
Because
like
the character
probably
could be more complex like
exactly.
that.
Yeah, like from a story perspective, from a writing perspective, I think like one of the only things holding this movie back was like her development and character arc. I wish they had given like it would have been fine if she fell for Jim, but if it was like more of a good arc from being this like hardened stone cold survivor to
Hmm.
learning to actually care for someone again and like
Hmm.
I think that's like it's a cool concept, but I just don't think it was like pushed far enough or developed deep enough.
Yeah, it almost felt like there's like these check marks you have to make. You have to check these boxes to like make for it to be good cinema, right? There has to be romance. There has to be whatever. So it almost seemed like, oh, where's the romance? Where
Yeah.
do we fit it in?
Yeah, it was like taking the art house movie and making it
Hmm.
like a general audience kind of a movie.
Yeah. So at this point in the film, it's too late for evacuation, right? It's it's the government's already collapsed, which I'm just trying to see how that could relate to us in modern society and how realistic that is. I mean, we see the stock market crashing.
Yep.
We see our government not agreeing or putting together a relief fund, which time is of the essence.
Yeah, seriously.
Eventually, things are going to bottom out. And if businesses, small businesses that are not able to stay alive by being shut down 2 months, begin to fail, that's where you start to see desperation. That's how riots can occur and anger against the government. government not acting fast enough. So therefore, you can find revolt. I'm not encouraging any of this. I'm just trying to relate to how the film went about and how they're in that world their government collapsed. So
Yeah, I think it's pretty damn believable if you have a virus or whatever it is in this bacterial infection or whatever that is as powerful as it is in this movie, where it literally infects you in like 15 seconds. Um, then yeah, I think if you have something that you don't have a cure for and it's that aggressive, I think it's like very easy to see that within like a week or two, you'd see complete collapse of our society. And it's just scary to think like
it's
in
terrifying.
normal waking life, we don't realize how fragile our society actually is. But yeah, I think modern society is still super fragile.
Oh,
And
this whole pandemic is
yeah,
humanizing us,
yeah, for sure.
which
It's
is
like
which is good. It's like a good wake up call,
yes, yeah,
because I think this will change our mindset of how we look about a lot of things. When something that is real is able to hit and cripple and literally stop all this stuff that we made our priority in our lives, and there's a bigger picture out there. We took like every retail capitalism, like content, creative content, ingesting of movies and everything. Like that's what our priority is almost
yeah,
as a society. And then it's literally put on hold because of a virus, and you're seeing like all the money that is our priority. Like the stock market's closed, you can't
yeah,
even trade. So that's shut down. So like now that's stripped out of your life, and like you can't go outside, and it's just I think when we go back to the way things, I mean, we'll never go back to normal, but once we start like recovering from this, we're going to, I think, look at global warming differently, look at how our environment, oh, maybe us recycling is more important than we're leading on to. Like, I think we're seeing tastes of like how we can be crippled, like you said,
yeah.
which is,
I mean, I really hope so. I
I
really
guess,
hope
a
society learns from
silver
that.
lining.
Yeah. Um, but do you want to talk about the really cool twist at the end, or have we not gotten there yet?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
The whole
We
thing
don't
of
need to have, we don't need to be in order. We could
yeah.
just
So
talk.
I mean, I think what brought this movie to like the next level and made it like way more interesting was this whole twist at the end that basically society is still surviving, and that basically the whole island of Great Britain is basically quarantined, and the rest
Hmm.
of society is fine, and the virus hasn't gotten out like past that island. So
Yeah.
like he looks up and he sees the plane flying overhead, and he
Hmm.
like realizes what's going on. That was like that blew my mind, and that was a really cool twist, I thought.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Yeah.
it's believable because it's like, oh, okay, like yeah, it makes perfect sense. Like when you like even like just geographically when you look at it, it's like, yeah, you've got this like Great Britain island. It's like separate from the rest of the world. And like as long as like you don't let people on a boat or whatever, on a ferry across the water, then
I
the
mean, it
virus
didn't
will
work.
stay
It
there.
didn't work here, though. I mean, maybe because we were too late to act, but
Yeah, we were
the
too
whole
late
world has it
basically.
here.
Yeah, people
Is
were still
Antarctica
commuting
still
and
safe,
stuff.
or they got it now? I think they were the last survivors.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah, but
crazy,
it worked for the
crazy
context
times.
of the movie anyways.
Yeah,
Like if you stop the commuters soon enough that the virus doesn't get out, that was pretty cool. But it's
yeah.
like really dark because it's like basically the only solution is to let
Like, what
everyone on
would
the
you do in
island
that
die.
situation? Do you start blowing up bridges to a city? Because
Right.
all our cities are, even though surrounded by water, we're interconnected through land.
Basically like the unspoken explanation is like the rest of the world is sacrificing these millions and millions of people who live there, letting them all die in order to save the rest of the world. Super grim and
To
dark, but really cool.
I did want to talk about how another way they use this camera to be more cinematic is they love putting the camera in high places. These like
Yeah.
obscure, not easy to get shots.
Hmm.
You see it like they put it. There's like when he enters the church, the camera's like up above the cross and behind it, so the cross is in the foreground, and then he's super small, Jim, in the
Yeah.
background, like tiny,
Uh
entering the
huh.
church. And that right there is like a shot similar you'd see in a big motion picture cinematic film. So I guess that's like something to pick up on. And I think they had it above telephone wires, like how they get it up there,
Oh yeah, yeah,
high up on buildings. I think it's just like, okay, you have the tool you have, and you're not able to out of camera great like just get that cinematic look that you're hoping for. So how do you implement it into your work? And I think that's like another cool way to do it. Just make interesting shots. Nothing that's like too like I think they have like POV follow shots in there, don't they? And I'm not a
yeah. I
huge
forget.
fan of those, but just because
Right.
it leads you into what you need to look at and stuff. I kind of like it
It's like
to be
missing out on
less.
an opportunity to be like to add a little more suspense. I think
Hmm.
those kinds of shots. I always felt, anyways. But yeah, I
But
think it's like when you have like a smaller, lighter weight camera, you have to take advantage of that. It's easier to rig up in those like unique angles, so you should.
and with a camera with limitations on contrast and color contrast, they do good things in set design if you notice in the way they like add tone to the space. The
Oh
curtains
yeah,
become colored, so that the light coming through creates color through the tinted like sheer curtains.
yeah,
So
exactly.
just the way to break up how that flat image, not flat, but like just like that chunky DV compressed look um, with highlight to shadow ratio. Just the way they had color, not just white walls or dark walls and just things falling into dark all the time.
Yeah,
They just had like good patterns, good textures, just way to make again like that image look more interesting and more cinematic by having good production design.
yeah. Production design is so important for cinematography, and it's again, it just shows the masterful work behind the craft. Like it doesn't matter what camera you have,
Hmm.
if you don't have as much dynamic range and you're good enough that you can get the exposure right with less dynamic range, by bringing up the shadows and by softening the highlights, with curtains and whatever you need to do. But it's like when we learned, like again, going back to film school, when we learned to shoot on Tri-X reversal, black and white, like that film stock, Super 16, that film stock has like 3 or 4 stops of dynamic range. It's like either clipping in the shadows, exposed at middle gray, or clipping in the highlights. If
Hmm.
when you learn to light for that type of a sensor or film stock, and you learn to expose for it, you get good at it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I
The
think there's
how.
a sorry, I think there's a cinematographer. His name is Jeff Boyle. I think that's his name,
Mhm.
and he talks about how basically like you shouldn't be like worried about like how much dynamic range or how much resolution you have in your camera. Like you should be worried about how to light it and how to design it. Um, and like you could have like an HDR image coming out of your Red or your Alexa Mini or whatever, in order to compensate for a high dynamic range environment. But if you light it so that way the lighting in the environment is a low dynamic range, then you don't need the high dynamic range from the camera. Like
Yeah.
it's it just goes to show. Yeah, I don't know. You can make
Oh,
it. You can make it look just as clean.
I just got a notification on my phone. I have like the subscription for like some items, so I get like Paige has Perrier that comes, and then I have like the bubbly or whatever.
Uh huh.
And I guess because it's on subscription, it's just automatically monthly. I get it shipped here, and I
Oh,
guess they're
nice.
still delivering because I just got notification that it's 10 stops away.
Oh
I feel
wow.
bad. I should have because like they have to be out in it, delivering.
Yeah,
Should
that's
have
kind of
paused
crazy.
that.
Well,
Um,
what they say actually is that you should keep using those services because those people need to work. You know.
that's true. That's true,
So
and it keeps us in the house still.
yeah,
That's how I see it.
yeah.
So, how about that one scene? Like his parents, he found his parents. I guess they
Oh
they
man,
killed
that scene was
themselves, right? The
awesome.
suicide scene.
Yeah, that was
They
awesome.
what did that note mean? Was that like
Um,
they were like saying like come join us, basically?
I think so. But I mean, yeah. Basically, it was a note. So if he found their dead bodies, they were like, like we're all right, we're at peace.
Yeah,
And yeah, there was
like
something
they
like
didn't
kind of dark
suffer,
in
but
there.
yeah, I thought it was like almost saying like
Yeah, like come join us.
yeah, in lamest terms. How much Pepsi was in that movie? A lot of Pepsi pushing. Did
Yeah,
you notice
even in the
that?
very beginning, like when he's There's like all the Pepsi cans in the hospital. I totally noticed that.
Pepsi machine. I think they're drinking a Pepsi.
Hey, you know what?
Um,
I mean, you have a low budget movie, whatever kind of sponsorships you can get,
I
in
know.
order to make
I
your
just think
film.
they made a bad move. I think Coca-Cola is clearly the better product, and they should have been pushing for that. I mean, Pepsi. Come on.
And I think they
My
incorporated it
mom's a
well.
Pepsi person. So like my nucleus family grew up on Pepsi.
Mm.
Pepsi was always in the house, but when I would get to go to other families, like family parties and stuff, that's where the Coca-Cola was. And I was definitely more into Coca-Cola. So, but I guess Pepsi does match a good pizza since I grew up with that.
Yeah, it
But
definitely does.
too much Pepsi. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
I like the
I
way they worked it like well into the narrative though.
There's this one quote that stuck with me. It said like they tried to buy their way onto a plane. And I was thinking about that, and like with the way the airlines are going and restrictions and like private pilots, like you could, once it gets to that level, like you would have to be like almost like a black market of trying to get flights, of trying to like travel
Oh
in
wow,
like a lockdown society.
you mean like paying a private pilot to fly you somewhere?
Yeah, or even like if it became dystopian, even like these airliners, like they're still operable.
Like
So they're
hijacking a 747
yeah, 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 like Grand Theft Auto style. Like, well, they said they tried to buy their way onto a plane. Like you could look at it as if like immigrants trying to buy their way, like illegal immigrants trying to buy their way, like their I guess means of travel in and out, or drug cartel. So this is just like for people to maybe commute to, like get to DC to somewhere or get somewhere else.
Yeah.
I just found that interesting that's like if that could totally happen in this society where just travel alone becomes like I don't know, like an undermarket society.
Yeah. Uh, Speaking of illegal immigrants, like I feel kind of bad for illegal immigrants in this country right now because basically they won't get unemployment if they apply. I mean, they can't apply for unemployment.
Yeah.
So it's like they're out of work.
I don't even know if
And
we can.
yeah, I don't know if we can either. I was looking it up the other day. I don't know if freelancers can at all. I don't know if it's something like you have to be in the union in order to get unemployment. I'm not sure how it
Yeah.
works. I'm not sure if like because we have Neuway Media now, we technically can maybe.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
I think we should definitely look into that.
All I know is that all work is halted here. That's like another article I'm doing. I don't know why. I just got in this like mood to write these blog posts, like opinion piece blog posts, and then accompany them,
Awesome.
like have a video accompaniment to them.
Yeah,
And
sounds
the
great.
two I'm gonna do here is like how studios are affected by the shutdown, or can studios outlive the shutdown, and then on-demand movies released here to stay.
Hmm.
I just kind of want to dive into that a little bit and
Yeah.
talk about because the industry's changing, believe it or not, and we will be affected
Hmm.
because we are already.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about the industry changing in terms of camera technology. That was sort of my next topic for our next episode.
Mm.
So we could get into that in a later for a later
I know
episode.
I've been
But
so anti Komodo, but like as time goes, it's a real option to consider
yeah, it's
because it
definitely a
might
fascinating camera.
because I could always rent Monstro, and Helium when the projects that need it have those budgets.
Yeah, I think that's like sort of the mindset I'm in right now. But anyway, we'll talk about that in another episode.
Of course, of course. They tried to buy their way onto a plane, right? But cash is useless. Cash doesn't matter in their society,
Mm,
I guess. In this, I guess, their small society.
yeah.
Very interesting. It's like the idea of our cash being useless. Like as we
Yeah.
see the stock market tanking and then loans just coming in and bailouts and then tossing money around, it kind of I mean it definitely hurts like the structure of the dollar, the weight of the dollar.
There's
It
even
just like kind of brings to light that like this is all kind of just made up stuff. Like we know it is. We just
yeah.
kind of like live our lives like it's not, but like we
Yeah.
made it up. We can create more. I mean, sure we have this system where like gold matches or whatever, but like
Not
we
anymore.
even made those rules.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, no, we
this
don't
is
even
super interesting.
yeah, we don't even have enough gold to match our dollars now. That's not even
And
a
you
thing
hear
anymore.
people saying like make student debt just go away and it's like there's no way it just disappears. I mean, that'll be great, but if it just disappeared, it's just, I don't know.
Well, the only way it disappears is for the colleges to just not get paid what they're owed and to just like
Yeah, just eat
legally
it.
not be able to, yeah, to just eat it, or the government will pay the colleges what they owe.
Or we pay
Yeah, or it's just taken out
the
of taxes,
taxes. Yeah.
which would be weird. Well, technically, yeah. So it would be like the top 1% really would take the hit. Then they would really pay for it. Um, but yeah, like I'm already seeing like the corner store down the street won't even take cash anymore because it might have like bacteria on it. You know, they'll
I
only
went
use
to,
cards now.
I was adventurous and went out and got Chick-fil-A yesterday.
Oh,
And
it's still open. Wow,
yeah, yeah,
cool,
it's literally down the block from me. So it's not even a
nice.
5-minute drive. And I had to move my car for parking because I
Yep.
don't know if that's implemented. I don't know if street cleaning and all that stuff's still like a thing.
Well, so I heard it's not, but then my roommate got a parking ticket the other day,
No,
so
you got a ticket?
I didn't.
Dude, they're
But yeah,
still out there, savages.
yeah, it's weird. Apparently, like you could get the ticket, but then if you fight it, then they'll they'll take it away. But it's like, why even have the parking authority out at all if you're just like,
I mean, I guess to keep them employed. I don't know. It shouldn't be happening. If we're not allowed to leave, then it doesn't make sense.
it's
But
very
I moved
weird.
my car anyway, and I
Yeah,
got
me too.
Chick-fil-A, and they asked if I was paying cash or card, and I said card, and then there was a separate lane for me.
Oh, cool, interesting.
Um, so yeah,
Anyway, do we have
I'm trying to
anything?
get back. Dual exposure transitions in the film. Did you notice those?
I can't say I remember.
Yeah, there's like
I'm
times where they
surprised.
would do dual exposure where like, well, yeah, it was literally like two shots playing at once and then slowly eating into the next shot. Just
So sort of like a cross dissolve, but more like an overlay cross dissolve.
yeah, they kind of came off for us today as like cheap Adobe transitions, but it's just interesting. They just did some interesting like post work that was definitely very apparent and
Mm,
stood out. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it
I
wasn't
definitely noticed
subtle.
that, like in the editing in general, the editing was definitely, yeah,
It would
not
get like
subtle.
music video-y,
Yeah,
like
a
the
little
way
bit.
they would like explore just like flashes or just changing the color tone, just like taking making it like not worldly.
Hmm.
I found that interesting. And I said it earlier, like the infected had their own shutter speed where it was like staccato, you know?
That's pretty sweet.
They're
I feel like I want to rewatch it now to pick up on more of these things. I definitely feel like every movie should be watched multiple times because
it was cool that they had their own shutter speed, but again, it came off a little. I know what they're doing, like Saving Private Ryan does it and stuff, and it does work and it's effective. But at the same time,
well,
I don't know if it was the technology. Yeah, you didn't pick up on
I
it,
didn't pick up
but
on it. If anything, it was just a like purely subconscious thing for me that I felt but didn't notice. But I love watching movies the first time where like you're not looking for things, so
it
you're
almost
just
came off as
feeling
like
it.
strobed when they were running, you know?
That sounds pretty cool. I feel like I want to rewatch it now.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it looks cool. I don't know if I like that effect or not still. Like in Saving Private Ryan, it was like awesome. There's this gravitas weight, but like they kick on like heavy metal music, right? When the
Right.
infected are
Yeah.
there, and then there's
Yeah.
like this crazy shutter speed. It just I get it because it's like high intensity and all that, but I don't know. Maybe it's because it's mini DV. It just like kind of felt like
Yeah. Maybe it was like too much. Maybe it needed a little bit less.
yeah, yeah.
Like maybe the
I mean,
effect is cool, but
it's
it's just
style preference though. That's what's cool about cinema.
yeah.
You know, it's not like there's a right or wrong. It's not like they're wrong.
I think why it probably works for me is just because the whole film has such a gritty, grungy feel.
Yeah.
So it's like something more extreme as an effect like that.
Hmm.
Just it doesn't feel as out of place as if it was like a polished.
It made me feel like it was video gamey, which is cool. Like
Mm,
there's definitely video game tones and in this film,
yeah,
whether
and it
games derived
influenced a
from
lot
it
of
or it
yeah,
derives from yeah.
yeah. It influenced a lot of games and movies in the future. Super cool.
Let's see what else I have. The one people they had their Christmas lights up they used for SOS. That reminded me of Stranger Things, like that one apartment just had all the Christmas lights inside.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was this Christmas? I never really
um,
got
no, I don't
when the
think
time was. This
so.
house was just decorated in Christmas lights. Cool production design. Um,
I feel like it
but
didn't look cold enough outside to be Christmas.
Yeah, it is England though. I remember when I was in London in January, it was like 50s.
Oh, interesting.
Um, I talked about how creating depth with foreground shots. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Mad Eye Moody from Harry Potter's in it.
Yeah, and yeah, and he has that actor has so much range.
I found it strange. He was like he went out. I mean, it's great that the humans still existed, but he went out geared up, like in SWAT gear, to save their life, like
Uh-huh.
save his life.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like a super cool move and really contrasty from Selena, who it seems like she wouldn't have done that. But
No,
technically
you just like leave
technically
him
she
out
did
there.
as well. Technically she saved Jim in the beginning.
Well, just because he had his daughter, you'd think you'd be like, no friggin' way am I risking it.
Right, yeah.
But it wasn't a problem. He came out geared up, which I don't know if he stays geared up because he instantly de-geared when they got inside. So I don't know if he was just sitting around waiting geared up or if he like saw the problem coming and quickly geared up that fast and saved him. But I thought
Yeah,
that was cool.
because he had the
I
flashing
found
light for them.
a disturbing image of the fish tank low on water. I found that to be super disturbing in the dude's apartment, Mad Eye Moody's apartment. That's
Oh,
what I'm
shit.
calling him.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Because I think I guess maybe
Oh,
water resources are low. I
right.
don't
Because
know.
remember the scene on the rooftop where they have all the buckets that are empty and he's talking
Yeah,
about how
yeah. He's
water's
like
low?
catching rainwater in buckets.
Yeah, so that's really a nice touch, actually. Talking about how water's low. He must have had to like drink the fish tank water.
Yeah, but then like the water's so low and it's full of fish, so like it's just like a slow death for the fish too.
Yeah,
Just like disturbing.
that's awesome. I love that. I wonder if that was like a directorial thing or if that was in the script,
Yeah. And I
like
liked how
in
they used like a
production.
tonal hymn playing and like throughout the scene. It's just like really I don't know. The soundtrack was pretty cool.
So yeah, soundtrack was great.
The heavy metal zombies, I get it. I get it. I don't know if I love it, but I totally get it. I did notice they went to the grocery store fully stocked.
Yeah, okay, that would never happen.
Fully stocked. I mean, clearly that's first to go.
Yeah.
People freak the hell out and they buy a bunch of bread, eggs, milk, and toilet paper.
Especially toilet paper.
Still, you still can't find this crap when you go out. It's still empty out
Yeah,
there.
even right now, and we're like on a scale of 1 to 10,
It's
10
like
being
limits.
28 days
You're only
later,
allowed
we're
to
still at a
most of
1.
these stores. You can only get like one item per household. It's still
Yeah.
like empty. It's crazy. So yeah, the grocery store fully stocked. No way. Maybe they're a little more polite in Britain, but I highly doubt it. Not to mention, just with the lack of preservatives over there, the food would spoil faster, the breads and all that stuff. Just
Yeah.
saying.
I think he was out how long was he out? Was it like 2 weeks or was it like a couple
28
days?
days. 28
Well,
days later,
that
right?
was 28 days since the infection started, I think. Oh, right. So yeah, it must have been
Yeah,
28 days for him.
he like
Yeah.
knocked out and woke up 28 days later.
Yeah. So shit. Okay. That grocery store would have been cleaned out and all that bread would have been spoiled.
And let me see. The sound design reminded me of an old movie. The sound design was cool. I liked it. It had like very filmic qualities.
Nice.
Just like, picking up on like a lot of noises that we kind of get rid of in our films. Like you hear like the walking, the gravel of the steps. Like it was just like more focused. Or like it's not really it can be distracting too, I guess, in some films. So we
Mhm.
don't need to go that crazy. Like when you watch Marvel movies, I don't know how often you're hearing the footsteps.
Yeah, or how
But
you're paying attention to it because those movies, especially like big action movies, they're so loud.
yeah.
I love it when you have like a loud action movie that also has quiet moments where you hear the quieter sounds.
Well, I think with 28 Days Later, there's also a lot of quiet moments, and that's where
Yeah,
like the sound of everything, the sound design really kicks in, which was
yeah,
nice. Um, they did have a dream sequence in, which I'm just not a fan of for some reason. Like I just didn't like that dream sequence.
yeah. Was that when he finally fell asleep? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that scene.
it just always seems so cheesy when you like, oh, they fall asleep and everything's bad and we're killing, dying, and then you wake up and it's like, no, we didn't commit to it. It's almost as if like something the writers want to do, but they know they can't do it, so they just make a dream sequence.
Yeah, and it was already like quite a long film too. Like I'm
Yeah, it just didn't
surprised.
seem necessary.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah,
feel like the weight of the film is there on itself. If you show us something worse and then go back to reality, like I don't know.
yeah. Sort of a cop out. Sort of like a a cheap way to give it more
Also,
drama.
it takes away a little bit of the drama
Yeah.
overall because it's like teasing us. But I guess Star Wars did it right, right? You see like Luke's head get cut off, or Darth Vader's head get cut off, and that's kind of more than you see. But it didn't like take away from the film, even though it is a weird scene.
Wait, his head gets cut off? His head doesn't get cut off, his legs get cut off.
No, in Empire Strikes Back, that dreamlike sequence in the forest, and he faces Darth Vader and he cuts his head off, and it's like just seems like out of place
Oh.
in the movie.
Oh. I thought
But I guess it works there, you know. It's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
weird though. It still
No,
even feels weird in Empire when you
yeah.
watch that scene. It feels like what's this crazy magic shit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, I actually really liked revisiting it. It was cool to see like the art. You know, the art's definitely in there, even with the technology limiting. And it being an indie film, you still have these like really cool cinematic sequences, and you can still learn a lot from it. And it's still just a cool story. So I recommend
Yeah,
seeing it
totally.
to
I mean,
people that haven't.
to me, I think it would have been such a different movie if it wasn't such an indie flick. And I think like I'm really happy that it was indie because I think that made it a better movie. It made
And
it
it kind of
unique
almost
and
found like found footage a little bit, not like totally, but
yeah, in a way. Yeah,
like
especially in like that the intro montage when he's sort of like wandering London for sure.
mhm. Yeah, like it opens, it starts that way.
Yeah.
um, as like we're bystanders, which is pretty nice. So directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland, who I believe says that they're making a third one because there's 28 Weeks Later, which I've actually never seen,
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah.
and then I guess they're making a third one right now, or writing
Wow.
it, or it's in development or whatever. But I
Interesting.
think there is a confirmed third one that they're revisiting.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because like
And
indie
especially
film.
with this going on, it'll be like a nice. I wonder how they reinvent the storyline with what happened and how it'll relate. I feel like pandemic films are definitely going to be trendy coming soon.
Yeah. And I wonder if it'll be in the same universe or a different just a different film altogether that's like
Yeah.
different characters and stuff or I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting because nowadays an indie film isn't shot on a DV camera, it's shot on a Red or an Alexa, you know. Like it doesn't matter how low budget the film is, it's still shot on the
Hmm.
best of the best cameras we have around. So it's going to be interesting to see stylistically if they keep any of the same style. And I love the style so much of the original because like they don't make movies like that anymore. You know, it's just unique and you can learn from it in a way that you can't like techniques that are used that aren't used anymore.
I heard Ewan McGregor was supposed to be the Bill for the
Oh,
film,
that would have been super
main,
cool.
and then
He would have been good in that.
this I think the backup was Ryan Gosling, but there was scheduling
He would
conflicts
have
with
been
him.
great in that too.
But I mean, I think Killian did great too. I think it really worked. You know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, he was perfect for that role.
It's good, and hopefully that was like a leading cause in the jumpstart of his career.
I think it
It was
was.
great.
Yeah. It was like the first
It's
big thing
cool.
he did and sort of put him on the map.
It makes me want to play The Last of Us again,
Yeah, it really does.
and I do need to replay it one more time before it comes out. It's like I'm pretty sure it's like an 8-hour game.
Oh,
You
I think
shouldn't
it's
like you
way
should be able
longer
to
than
do it in
that.
a weekend.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I put at least 20 hours into the campaign, if not more. Maybe
Hmm,
30.
maybe I'm mistaken. I thought it was like an 8-hour game.
No, I think it's a lot longer than that. Well, actually,
Maybe I'm
no. I
thinking of
mean, it's
Resident
definitely longer than 8 hours. I remember the first time I played it was back when we were in LA in 2016, and I remember playing it in our place in Burbank for the first
Evil. Hmm.
time, and I think I got through like most of the game in a weekend. So yeah, I think like 2 to 3 days you could probably beat it.
My game times aren't always accurate because I'll get tired and sleepy and sit in a menu screen too long and or get up and go get something. So who knows?
Yeah.
But all right, well I think that's a good first new in review episode
Yeah, that was a lot
for
of fun.
28 days later. About an hour 20. I don't know if we should have to restrict the time limits on here, but I think an hour ish is a good time. Hour and a half
Yeah, I think
is a good
so.
time for these. And we'll no real set schedule yet with putting these out, but we're going to start doing this more consistently and hopefully have a routine schedule with them if they seem to draw interest. And we'll find ways for you guys to reach out. I'm sure you have ways of commenting or reaching out through via email at newwaymedia@gmail.com or through our website or YouTube to give us ideas of topics or movies you want to see covered. I like stumbled on that. You want to see covered. Just let us know. Yeah, anything you want to add before we kick out of here?
Yeah, no, I think that was a great episode. Great number one. And yeah, I'm excited to keep watching older movies and reviewing them for everyone to listen to.
Yeah, I like this method I have here. Just like I don't want to say I restrict myself, but 2 pages of notes is my goal to, at minimum, generate 2 pages of notes to bring.
Yeah. And I think personally, I like this format of just a looser format, just more of our impressions.
Yeah.
Doing a little
Yeah,
bit
I
of
don't want to say
research,
put like
whatever.
scores on it and like deep dive into like like a film critic, you know. It's more just
Exactly.
like, yeah.
Cool.
Cool,
All
cool.
right.
Maybe we could have watch alongs in the future.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you for listening, everybody.
Yeah, that's Brendan Grant there, and this is Chris Murray from Neuway Media, and this is New Review, unless I think of a better name in the meantime. Uh, thank you for listening, and you guys take care and keep creating.